Dr. Florence Wambugu for a fantastic job. I appreciate the good work that you have done, and thank you for keeping time. Let's give them another round of applause as they settle. And if you are their neighbor, please extend some water to them. They've done a big, big job. Thank you very much. We want to move on to the next plenary panel discussion. And the topic that we're going to be discussing next is promoting gender equality, equal opportunities and empowerment of women, smallholder farmers in the horticulture sector. And our panelists are going to be Dr. Jessica Ndubi, who's a gender specialist at KALRO, Dr. Jackie Atim, plant pathologist at Naro, from Naro, Uganda, and Mr. Sisei Hailu, horticulture advisor from Ethiopia, and the panel moderator is going to be Dr. Lydia Miriti, who's a gender specialist at KALRO. Let me request those esteemed scholars to make their way to the panel seats here. Then we can be able to move forward. As they come, let me quickly read their quick bios, just for you to get to appreciate who we have with us here. Lydia Chiangai Miriti is a research officer at KALRO and at Kenya Agriculture, Livestock and Research Organization. She was employed at KARI with a certificate in general agriculture as a technical assistant. She has risen to the current position through enthusiasm and hard work. She holds a BA in sociology, first-class honors, MA and doctor in philosophy, PhD, in gender and development from Kenyatta University. A social scientist, a gender specialist, a part-time consultant in gender and development research, part-time supervisor to students perusing masters in gender and development studies at KU, Kenyatta University. She has authored many journal papers, mainly in the area of gender and development. Her key research focuses on gender responsiveness in all sectors, with special emphasis in agriculture value chains to enhance equity in access to resource, income generation, food security, and poverty alleviation. So let us put our hands together for Lydia Miriti. Lydia, you can probably put your hand up. That is Lydia. That is the moderator for this panel discussion. As I said earlier, there are 3 panelists with Lydia. There's Dr. Jessica Ndubi, who is a gender specialist at KALRO. She served as a senior research assistant at KALRO. She holds an MSc from the University of London, specializing in gender, specializing in agricultural research and extension. She coordinated an outreach program which is called ATIRI, which is a demand-driven national project for 12 years. As a coordinator, she was involved in the project budget allocations, convening national workshops, monitoring, and evaluation, among other activities. She's a PhD fellow, knowledge, technology, and innovation at Wageningen University in the Netherlands. She's a gender specialist and advisor. She focuses on mainstreaming gender in agricultural research and extension through gender sensitization workshops, gender training workshops, ensuring agricultural research proposals incorporate gender issues. Let's put our hands together for our sister from KALRO, Jessica Ndubi. Jessica, you can probably stand up or wave. Thank you very much. Then we have got on the panel Dr. Jackie Atim. Jackie Atim studied BSc in agriculture at, now here they say, Kyambogo University. I was going to say Kyambogo, but this is Kyambogo University in Kampala. She then went on to Wageningen University and research in the Netherlands. She studied plant biotechnology, and then she went to University of Greenwich, UK, where she studied plant breeding. Her research and professional experience spans a wide field. She has been a research officer, plant pathologist at Mukono Zonal Agriculture Research and Development Institute. She has also served at the National Agricultural Research Organization in Kampala, Uganda. She has been an assistant lecturer, Department of Vocational Studies in Agriculture at Chambogo University. And then earlier on, she was a vegetable development manager at Victoria Seeds Limited in Uganda. She has 10 years experience in biotic and abiotic stress resistance screening in multi-environments. She has 5 years experience in extension, education, and technology promotion. She has research and promotion of small gardens in urban and peri-urban areas experience. And then finally, she has got experience in gender equality and inclusion in technology promotion and outscaling. Let's put our hands together for our sister Jackie Atim. If you are a Kenyan like me, you would be calling for the 2/3 rule. Those who know, they know. Right, next is Sisei Hailu Tafere. Sisei Hailu is a highly committed, passionate, and experienced horticulturalist with an MSc specializing in horticulture, who has been serving for more than 17 years with different technical responsibilities, as well as managerial positions in different government organizations and project works. He has played prominent roles in development of Ethiopian agricultural and horticultural policies, roadmaps, strategies, apart from his major duties and responsibilities as a senior horticultural professional. Sisei has immense experience working with private sector, horticultural and agricultural investors, small-scale horticultural outgrowers, cooperatives, and unions. And this panel is going to be discussing with us promoting gender equality, gender opportunities, and empowerment of women smallholder farmers in the horticulture center. So let me hand over to Lydia Miriti to pick up from there. Karibu sana.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, we are the gender panelists, experts. Without wasting time, because our time is already gone, because we are supposed to have 1 hour, just to say something little concerning gender. We know that gender issues, they cut across all sectors or all value chains, and to enable sustainable food systems, we know that gender equality and equal opportunities for all players are involved in all the value chains. And research has shown that 90% of the horticultural production is dominated by smallholder farmers, yet most of these are women. And we know that, however, it is the men who reap the most of the benefits from this production. At the end of this session, we intend at least to involve the gender inclusion, empowerment, and equality, and to answer some questions that we will ask the panelists. And not to waste any more time, the main objective of this session are to understand the issues to do with promoting gender equality and opportunities, and also to identify the challenges associated with the gender equity, and to suggest ways to foster all gender inclusion for the productivity of the sector. So I'm going to open the panel. I'm hoping each one of them at least has gone through the questions that we are supposed to answer. And I'll start with our sister, Dr. Dubi, to at least say something concerning gender opportunities. Welcome, Dr. Dubi.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Miriti. Let me start by saying that women contribute a lot in the horticultural sector. They contribute as workers, they contribute as entrepreneurs, they contribute as agents of change. And because of that, you realize that they play an immense role. But despite this, they have less access to resources than men. They have less access to resources like land, credit, extension, training. markets, producer organizations, and contract farming. Besides, women work very long hours and actually have gotten less access to social protection. Yet, we know that if women had equal access to agricultural resources as men, FAO statistics have stated that agricultural production would have gone up by at least between 25 to 30%. Besides, agricultural output would have increased by between 2 to 4.5%, and about 100 to 150 million people would be free from hunger. So, how can we close this gender gap? How can we ensure that women are empowered? Because by empowerment we mean that they can be able to access these very pertinent resources that currently they are not able to access. And I think I'll demonstrate this empowerment by giving a case story of a group that is dealing with bananas. And this group is called Witikio Self-Help Group, which is located in Meru County. Meru County is actually the leading producer of bananas in Kenya, for those people who do not know. It has taken over from Kisii, that used to be the leading producer of bananas in the country. And Witikio is actually a self-help group that was initiated by women, but with the time, of course, some men joined in. This group found it fit to be empowered, and they linked themselves with various organizations that actually play a key role for their empowerment. For instance, the group was collaborating with Agritella, a Dutch company which is based in the Netherlands, and these are the people that provided the initial funding. More funding came from the CDF and the Women Enterprise Fund. Then it was also linked to TechnoServe, an organization based in the US. And this TechnoServe, actually their role was, they built capacity on group dynamics and leadership. They also built capacity on farming as a business, record keeping, how to calculate gross margin to ensure that they are not making losses. And also, TechnoServe linked them to market by bringing wholesalers, and on contractual basis. These farmers were supposed to provide quality. They were supposed to come up with quality bananas, and at the same time they had to meet the demand or the volumes. They were supposed to take them in a central collection center, and the contract, of course, specified the quality and the volumes. These were wholesalers, which means that now the issue of market was solved. They were also linked to Equity Bank, a microfinance, of course, to access the much needed credit, where they opened a saving and credit account, and also group members opened their own credit and saving accounts, which then means the issue of lack of credit was solved. And they were linked. Caro also provided the technologies, innovations, and management practices. They were also linked to the Ministry of Agriculture that provided the extension services. That in by itself means they have been empowered. And because of this empowerment, actually their production went up by about 20%. And to ensure that also they were linked horizontally, these group members were collaborated with their family members, relatives, and church members to, of course, disseminate the technology horizontally, which then means that the technologies, the innovations, the management practices pertaining to bananas were upscaled both horizontally and vertically. In that way, the group was empowered. And because of that, of course, banana production went up. I remember Dr. Wabogo talking of how banana production went up, and even today, the trend is going up. Yeah? That's the issue of empowerment. When I look at opportunities for women, what I can say is that we analyze the various value chains in the horticultural sector. And if you analyze all these value chains, we find that the subsistence value chains, that is, for instance, the indigenous vegetables that are mostly planted by women, because traditionally these are women value chains, that is where I can see opportunities for women. If actually they venture into these value chains, for example, the cowpeas, etc., they have a competitive advantage compared with the other value chains, like the ones we know for export markets. export markets are dominated by men. So that's a very big opportunity that the women can exploit so that they can be able to be competitive in the market and, of course, to earn a living. If they earn a living, they will become more independent and less independent on their husband. If they are more independent, what we are saying is that they have a value because the husbands and other family members respect them, and also they can get audience in the intra-household decision-making processes, which then means, of course, this one, we know when money is the pockets of women, what happens is that the whole family benefits. They will benefit in their social and economic development. When it comes to food and nutrition, we know that it's women who are supposed to put food on the table. And when it comes to health, they are the ones in the forefront. So what I'm saying is that if they venture in that field, all is well. Another opportunity that I can see for women is that many of these speakers here have talked of how they play a big role in the value chain, especially in the lower end of the value chain. They are more preferred than men when it comes to things like planting, weeding, harvesting, sorting, blending, etc., etc. Whereas men are more on the upper part of the chain. This actually is where I can say women have gotten an opportunity. Labor market, getting employment for the unemployed women. And if they get employed, what we are saying is that they will be empowered, they'll be able to have money in their pocket, and if they have money in their pocket, what can we say? They can be able to buy whatever they want, and they will be very much okay. For me, that's what I can say. That's what I can contribute for the time being.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Dobi. Let's hear from our brother on what is happening in Ethiopia concerning women empowerment and their opportunities.
Okay, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sisai. I'm working within the horticulture development sector of Ethiopia. Just to go directly to the issue, the Ethiopian agriculture sector as a whole, and specifically the horticulture sector, is just especially the commercial sector. The large-scale commercial horticulture development sector is largely engaging women, and just actually we can say that there is a very good opportunity and a very good engagement of gender sensitivity in commercial horticulture development sector of Ethiopia, especially in export-oriented commercial horticulture. Basically, the floriculture industry is engaging largely. We can say that almost more than 70% of the farm workers are women in the commercial horticulture area. So from the job opportunity, which is around more than 200,000 job opportunity in the commercial horticulture area. So basically we can imagine that one. And when it comes to the government commitment as well, the government is, of course, very committed to gender equality and gender mainstreaming also. Because in different, just including the constitution of the country, the issue of gender has been addressed over there, the issue of gender equality. And different international conventions also, the country has already signed the UN convention, already has ratified on that. So different commitments and initiatives are there. But when it comes to applicability, of course, challenges are there. In our previous panel discussion, just as my colleague, Mr. Abdullah has mentioned, there are huge challenges within the sector itself, because in Ethiopia, especially when it comes to the fruit and vegetable sector, it's at a very infant stage, we can say. it's largely occupied by the smallholder farmers, of course, but smallholder farmers still largely the household is a male-dominated one. But as I said, the initiatives, the efforts are still there, starting from the different policies, legal frameworks, and regarding the applicability also, with different projects, different initiatives are there, of course, but we can say that still there is huge gap. So probably as an opportunity, what we can say is the sector is, as I mentioned, it's very starting stage, especially the fruit and vegetable development sector, whereas the agroecology and the suitability wise, the country is highly suitable for diverse type of fruit and vegetable production. So there is huge area of engagement, and in the export area also, the floriculture is a dominating one, of course, in the horticulture, but we are also moving on with the fruit and vegetable and herbs as well. The agro-processing sector is still at its very beginning stage, we can say. So there are immense areas where we can consider the opportunity for women engagement for its applicability, I mean. So I think this much I can say. Thank you.
I think we can hear from our sister from Uganda to tell us what the opportunities are there for women.
Thank you so much. Most times when we are talking about gender equality, what jumps up on people's mind is women. And from experience, I remember one time 10 years ago when my one of the directors in NARO said, we are including gender mainstreaming in the proposal, but when it comes to implementation, we are actually not so sure where we have to start this from. And we have learned that over time, because of status, age, income, there is a difference between men and women, but you cannot take the women alone without involving the men in the gender mainstreaming issue or empowerment of women at the end of the day. Because you would find in situation, if I gave an example from Uganda, when we are sharing roles and responsibilities, you find like a vegetable like tomatoes, when it comes to input, it will involve the husband. When it comes to production, it's the husband. Now at the next level of post-harvest management and marketing, there comes the women in it. So this is when the women should be empowered. That is the level along the value chain when we look at the roles and responsibility where the women can be made on. Now, when we come to decision making and power and voice, if you're to empower the women and you leave the men out of it from the smallholder farmers that we have seen, you would call for a training in capacity building in horticulture, and the biggest percentage of people who are going to come will be the men, and the men will make the decision to allocate which land the vegetable will be grown in, which vegetables will be grown. But when it comes to the implementation, we realize that it is the women who are going to do the implementation. So that's when we change the strategy that when you are going to empower the women, you tell the men, come with your wife, and you give the instruction. Because at the end of the day, even if you did training for the women, it will not be implemented. They will not be empowered because they do not make the decision of agriculture resources that are in home. So the opportunity that is there is to involve both when we're doing the gender equality, is not to look at the women alone, but bring it as a holistic package. Then culturally, as Ugandans and I think Africa, the women have always taken the back seat. We need a behavior change where the mindset change where it knows that since the 90% of those involved in agriculture are women, we need to get the women empowered in leadership positions. When you're forming an implementation of a project and you know it is of value for nutrition and horticulture for that matter, it would be good to elect most of the key positions. It has been known women are very good at multitasking, coordination. So you give this position as empowerment so that the leader, these roles, the women can be empowered. But most importantly, as a researcher, we have realized that our technologies that we develop have not been taken up. And one of the issues is that it's also not gender sensitive. You go and get a hand spray, and the old lady is supposed to put this 20-liter jerry can behind. It's not user-friendly for the women. So when developing technologies, when developing promotion of technologies to empower the women, we have to put into consideration the category of women that are going to take over these technologies. And then there's issues to do with perception, relationship in homes. This has to put it in consideration when there's an open opportunities. Of course, you would find a scenario where, like, for example, there is a group where we empowered, we were promoting GNATs, and we did empower the women, and they grew acreages of GNATs, and they got really, their finances were increased, incomes were increased, but when they went back home, the gentlemen felt insecure because the women were now very rich and wanted to make decisions, which is not something which is accepted in culture. So we had to now integrate the gentlemen also in this process, because at the end of the day, this could also increase domestic violence because of empowering only one side. So there's a lot of opportunities when we are thinking of equality and empowerment of women, but back 10 years experience, we have realized that you have to integrate the men in the empowerment of women at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe to add to a little to what they have said, especially concerning culture, I also give an example, maybe to jog your minds, especially as we come up with technologies. There's a case I did a research in part of Meru. It was on tissue culture bananas, access to the bananas. And what I want to back what she's saying, that you cannot when we talk of gender, if you go to empower a woman alone, you will reach nowhere. You have to empower as a household. In that case, I remember, okay, they were given the tissue culture bananas. Each household was being given 5 stems, or can I call them the plantlets? So what happened is, the banana in that area belongs to a woman. So that's the first instance you're supposed to ask. If you're developing a technology on a commodity, on a certain value chain, you are supposed to ask, when you are taking it to the community or to whatever society, this commodity in this society belongs to who? Because we found that even in avocado tree in Kandara, where I did also a certain research, the avocado tree belongs to the man. So in that case, the banana tree belonged to the woman. So what happened? The women wanted to own up to this banana. It has now started earning income. So what happened? The women got more empowered than the man. And they started hiring more land to plant bananas. They also opened their own bank accounts. Do you know what happened? The intra-household conflicts started in that area. It was a very big case that involved even the authorities, because they also started even breaking marriages. Because this woman has become so empowered, she owns her own bank accounts, she has now access to income. The income belongs to, access to income is a man's affair, but culturally. But now this woman is so empowered. This woman has become empowered. She owns a land now. She owns a bank account. So there were a lot of fights. And at the end, there were a lot of breakages of marriages. So in that case, we recommended that at least any time the technology is being introduced in an area, you're supposed to know this commodity belongs to who. Then try to empower the whole household. Because gender is not about a woman alone. It is about the whole household. Then when we come now to the area of culture, like now in Kandara, a woman has a lot of opportunities in contract farming. They are called contract farming, where at least the high value marketing has been introduced to certain areas. But we find that this high value marketing, they need at least a person to have a land and to own avocado trees. Whose avocado tree is this? It belongs to the man. So where is this woman going to come in? If the avocado tree belongs to the man, and this woman also wants to earn from this avocado tree. So there are all those opportunities, but then there are other underlying issues that you're supposed to tackle, the challenges. Most of them are cultural. Others are maybe perceptions. We can call them cultural perceptions, because they believe a woman is not supposed to own this, a woman is supposed to do this. So when we tackle the cultural perceptions in areas, when we tackle those challenges on who owns this commodity in a certain area, then we are going to have a breakthrough when introducing the technologies. So in that case, I'm going to pose some questions to the panelists so that at least we can come up with, is there anyone, one of you, who can tell us concerning previous cases of women discrimination and harassment in the sector that have emerged, and what are the policies and sanctions in place to curb maybe the future incidences? Maybe our sister from Uganda, are there policies that now are in place that can curb some of these challenges, especially now the cultural ones, the gender perceived challenges?
Thank you. When it comes to gender policies, you would find, especially to do with land, access to land, there are policies that are in place that does protect. And then when it comes to also in research, you'll find most of the projects that are supposed to be implemented, it has to have some gender mainstreaming, and there has to be a percentage of, for it to be funded, there has to be a percentage of women and youth that are involved in it. And for example, I will give a crop that is not in horticulture. Like when it started, the cassava was a woman's crop. When it became commercial, just as every crop, when it becomes commercial, it changes hands. It becomes a man's crop. But then now there is a percentage where women get involved, especially in post-harvest management and in value addition. And there are different, we have an organization that is called, it has to do with equal opportunities, where women have got the opportunity to go. It has a team of lawyers and a team of experts from different fields, where if there has been any gender issues or violations has been involved, and someone has felt that she has been treated unrightly, like right from the workplace, they have the opportunity, which is at no fee, to get the help of different lawyers to listen to the case and see that they do get protection and compensation. That is equal rights, equal opportunity, and equal rights. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So we can hear from Ethiopia. Are there policies that curb gender discrimination, especially on the perceived perceptions?
Yeah, thank you. As I previously tried to mention, just it starts from the constitution of the country. So even within the country's constitution in 1995, it has been included, the issue of gender equality. And just emanating from that one, and also from different international conventions also, different strategies and policies have been developed. Specific to agriculture, of course, the strategy for agriculture by default also works for horticulture in our case. So there is gender strategy, agricultural gender strategy in our case. And also regarding the international framework, the UN Convention, especially in eliminating of all forms of discriminations, which is in 1981, I think. So already the country has ratified that one. So already the country has signed that one. So such type of legal framework and policy frameworks are there, of course. But as I mentioned before, just like any other country still, empowerment has to be there. There is huge gap over there. Empowerment and level of engagement also. Different organizations also, they mainstream gender together with other cross-cutting issue like environment. There is a modality of working in such a way, but I can say that it's not quite enough. There is huge opportunity, and there is much more challenge similar to other countries, like the financing issue, the behavioral change, and the capacity building area also. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Maybe we can hear from our sister on what is happening in Kenya concerning the policies that are there to curb these challenges.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Mereti. Let me say that sexual harassment and discrimination pervades every sector of the economy, more so in the horticultural sector. If you look at the value chains, learning from the flower industry to French mills in Timau, flowers in Naivasha, flowers in Machakos, flowers in Thika, sexual harassment and discrimination is all over. You hear women talking of gender-based violence. Gender-based violence cuts across many areas, talking even about women, touching them, asking for sexual favors when you want to be employed. You have to, of course, this one exists because of the power relations that exist. And we have already said that men dominate the higher, dominate in the high value. They are the ones who are the managers, the coordinators, while women are the ones that are doing these other jobs, the casual jobs, that they are supposed to be paid lowly and for very long hours, whereas men, of course, they are their managers. For them to exist, to coexist, many times you hear that women have been sexually abused, which then means it cuts across. And because of this, there are many factors that contribute to this. One of it is the entrenched gender relations that exist in the value chains. And I've already explained unequal power relations. Men are the bosses, men are the managers, women are the ones who are in the subordinate position. And because they don't want to be discontinued, they have to do exactly what their superiors are saying. And I'm saying these cuts across all sectors. Wherever there are power relations, these things happen. And they have also been entrenched by the patriarchal perceptions that perceive women as an inferior person. And because of this, we can say that there are laws and there are policies and laws entrenched in the Constitution and, of course, in the international labor organizations. But these laws can only work when it comes to, for instance, better wages, improved wages, better health and safety. But when it comes to the unequal power relations, it is not very easy, because these are systemic, they are structural, they have been entrenched in the gender social relations that exist in the workplace, and also the patriarchal perceptions. What I can say is that the policies that are existing, yes, they are. Like if you look at the Kenyan Constitution, Article 27 talks about equality in terms of in all the socio-economic and political spheres without discrimination. But because of the social relations that we've talked about, women are discriminated, perhaps because some of them will require maternity leave, some of them will need to do their domestic chores, and if a manager is given a woman and another one is given a young lady and another one is given a young man, perhaps you pick the man, because this woman at one time will seek for maternity leave. This woman, for some times, will need to go and do some domestic chores. So the policies are there, but when it comes to implementation, I and Dr. Rusika talking of very good policies. Kenya is very good in coming up with policies. And I think the best in the region, in the East African community. But when it comes to implementation, that is where the issue is. Implementation. It is not there. Policies are very good. If you look at, for instance, the Sexual Offences Act of 2006, it talks about all the penalties that are supposed to be taken whenever these issues arise. Are they implemented? Sometimes a woman is sexually abused, reports to the chief or reports to the authorities, but because of the patriarchal perceptions, these cases are not taken up. It's like it's normal for a man to do what they have done. And there are also policies that have been existing because of Kenya is ratified to International Labour Organization rules that are there. It has also party to the many treaties that have come talking about safety, employment, and discrimination. But all I'm saying is that they are not well implemented. And I think we also have some gaps, the Kenya gaps, the Euro gaps, that have gotten codes of conduct. These codes of conduct, all I can say is that they are not well implemented. But of course, we can have sanctions. If, let's say, they come and do audits and find that these things are not well implemented, there are sanctions that are supposed to take place. And if they take place, of course, we can discontinue. Or you can be banned from the market. And if you have done that, perhaps, might be, you can follow the rules and regulations that are existing. That's what I can say.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dubi. Maybe because we've got only 6 minutes, I'll give a chance to the audience. Maybe they have a question or two to ask the panelists.
You mentioned that some of the challenges we have in Kenya, this is the implementation part. So you have mentioned that one of the problems that we have as Kenya is the implementation of the policies that are already in place. So what are the challenges that we face in the implementation? Like, what are the factors that contribute to the lack of implementation? And also, Ethiopia has mentioned that they have an agricultural gender strategy. Do we also have something that is the same? And can we mention if there's access to affirmative funds for women? Things that, because you have already mentioned that they are the ones who are disadvantaged in the sector. So what are the specific policies or strategies that are in place to ensure that we help the women? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Regarding the Ethiopian case, I think the major challenge regarding the implementation is it's associated with a kind of enforcement, I think, because enforcement is not there, and if it's not implemented, who is not going to be liable for that? No just applicable issues are there. So in business areas, of course, as I mentioned before, especially in the commercial horticulture production for the export market. So sometimes the market itself guides, because depending on the market requirement, it might require different standards of applicabilities. So due to that, due to the nature of the business, they go for that. But when it goes to the governmental organizations or other public institutions, the applicability of the strategies, applicability of policies and roadmaps or whatever, it is directly associated with enforcement. That is what I can say from my side. Thank you.
Yes, we stated that Kenya has gotten very good policies that are existing, and they are pegged to the Kenya Constitution 2010. There are various articles that talks of equality and empowerment of women, and that talks or that are against sexual harassment and discrimination. And I quoted Article 27, sub-article number 2. It talks more about gender equality, empowerment, and that it also talks against discrimination, against any kind of gender, race, etc., etc. And pegged to this Kenyan constitution, we have so many various other policies that have been derived from the constitution. Even if you look at the two-thirds gender law, it is in the constitution that it states not more than two-thirds gender rule, or not more than two-thirds of either gender should participate, even when it comes to employment and worldview. But if you look at, for instance, even the scientists, 90% are men, which means that even women, some of them that are qualified are not employed. But because of this, what I'm saying is that we've gotten very good policies. We even have this, the Sexual Offences Act 2006 that talks very much on sexual harassment. But when it comes to implementation, I said it's a challenge, because we've had many people who have been sexually abused in the villages. Whenever they go to report to the chief, it starts from the chief. From the chief, it goes to the police. From the police, it goes to the doctor. If you look at that chain, it is very wrong. And as it moves, then from the police, it goes to the court. There's a lot of corruption, that one we know, such that most of the cases collapse. And even if there is the political goodwill, it will never see the end of the day. These are the challenges that we are facing. It is not only in the Sexual Offences Act. There are so many policies in Kenya that are supposed to ensure even food safety and what have you, but when it comes to implementation, it is an issue because of an hurry and because of so many issues that comes into play. That's what I can say.
And this is a bit of a general question to the panelists. Is there any one of you who has experience with digitalization to basically provide solutions to help the empowerment and promoting gender equality? I missed that a little bit in the discussion. Maybe Jackie, you can say something about it.
The question is clear?
No, okay. They are asking.
Yes.
Okay. I can hear out of this session, the problems are mentioned and a lot of examples of, that there is no gender equality. But I'm just want to ask the panelists if anybody has a solution for all those challenges that we have. And I was wondering if there's anybody who has experience with using digitalization as one of the solutions.
Digitalization?
Digital.
Yeah.
Dutch.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you. When it comes to using digitalization to promote, to empower gender, you find most of the access that when you need the gadgets that you'd want to need sometime, you find the smartphone is also still with the head of the family, the man. And the lady might have this other, the button one, where you'd say you'd send the SMS. Then we have challenges to do with paying up the airtime and all that. So it's a very big challenge when it comes to include women in the digital world, because now most of them are coming with smartphones, And even if you said, okay, we're going to implement, and then you give the smartphones to women, trust me, it will be taken away if you have not said it is the gentleman. So when you are also going to bring that, we have to look for another way of any kind of gadgets. The problem we have is with gadgets. That's why I said if we are going to get involved and go further with women empowerment, we would have to always involve, if the person is married, we have to always involve actually not only the husband but the household. Sometimes there's a phone and it is the youth who can operate it. It is the youth who can get the information. So it is a holistic whole household issue. So for empowerment, Dictor, I still say we have to go through the equality. Thank you.
Yes, I think in Kenya, we are using some tools for women empowerment. And as we have started by saying, of course, they've gotten less access to various resources, agricultural resources. To close the gap, in Karo, we are using various tools. And the one that I will talk about is a participatory tool called the Gender Action Learning System, GIRLS. It is a participatory tool that incorporates all the household members. It is conceptualized in form of a tree, and you see the tree has gotten a trunk, roots, and branches. So I'm saying it is conceptualized in form of a tree, and that's why it's called a gender-balanced tree. So the household is comprised of a woman and a wife and children. That one represents the trunk. Then the trunk has gotten 2 roots. It has gotten 4 roots, on the right and the left. The first root represents, or rather even this conceptualization look at who does what, who makes what decision, who has access to what resources, and who controls what resources. So it looks at a household as a holistic unit, because of course it's not a unitary decision-making unit. So the first root on the side represents activities that women do for their own. The second root are activities that they're supposed to do for the betterness of the family. For instance, women are supposed to perform more than domestic tasks: cooking, cleaning, taking care of the children, etc., etc. That is what is expected of a woman in a household. Then the taproot represents activities that are done by both husband and wife. Then on the left side, we have activities for men. Who does what? Activities that they do for their own betterness, and the second root is the activities that they are supposed to do for the family. Then when it comes to the branches, then the branches represent expenditure. How funds are utilized. Now the activities that women have done, the first branch is how they spend it on their own. Some will use their money on salon, giving to their sisters, brothers and sisters, even without the family knowing. Then the second branch represents expenditure for the entire family. You know, some women they know that they're the ones who are supposed to buy food, etc., etc. And then the middle one are joint expenditure. There is money that has been put there for the family. The last branch on the other side is men expenses on their own. You know, some men have gotten dogos or the side chicks. Others drink a lot and smoke. Women don't know about that money. And the second branch is expenditure for the family. Then the next thing we look, the third step is to look at the property in the household. Let's say cows, livestock, land, belongs to who? You put them on the man's side. If it is the one who controls the commercial horticultural crops, put them on the other side, on his side. Then at the end of the day, the next thing you ask, where is the tree? Is it balanced? Why is it falling? And you know, you're doing it as a family. You're not, it is a participatory tool because you're involving men, women, and children. You ask yourself, is the tree balanced? If it is not balanced, why is it not balancing? Why is it falling on one side? Is it women who are being overburdened with work? And if it's the case, as a family, can we think of changing some of these things that women are doing? Can we be assisting them in cooking? Can we be assisting them in planting, weeding, and what have you? Or can we start having joint decisions on how to spend our money? So if you see there are things that needs to be taken action, that's why we are saying the next thing is to take action. We mark at least 5 action points that you need to change. You give them green. And because changes do not take time overnight, you give them time. It is a gradual transformative method or two. Then you think about how to change it. You have seen the right there, that women are overburdened with work, that women don't make decisions, that women don't own any resource. And if you agree as a family, because now if you are using only one gender category, it will bring issues she has talked about. Intra-household decision-making will be an issue and it will break marriages. It has to be both men and women. You make decisions on which actions points to take, and if you take the actions, then gradually it changes. And that's why we are calling it a gender balanced tree, a participatory tool that incorporates whole household members. And actually we are using it in the tomato value chain in Kajiado and Siaya. And you know, Kajiado is the second producer of tomatoes in Kenya after Kirinyaga. And the men in Kajiado are changing, and we believe that in the next 5 years, they will change their gender roles, and there will be empowerment and equality in the household.
I think our time is far much gone. You can see he has stood up. So if you've any questions, we are still around. The panelists are still around the whole day, the whole 3 days. So you can pose a question to them or to us. So I think with that, I will say thank you so much, and hoping you've learned something in the very short time that we had. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. They've done a fantastic job. Is there any burning question? We probably have got about 3 minutes. Any burning question that we need the panel to address?
I've been wondering, beyond the domestic gender, what are the national policies that are in Kenya, in Uganda, in Ethiopia, related to the issue of gender disparity that the governments are pursuing? Because they can't be so at household level. The government must recognize this gap and need to address it for development. It's a development issue, not a woman issue. Thank you.
Panel?
From Uganda, I can't really point out clearly, but I know there are several policies that are connected to gender. But right now, I couldn't pull out most of them out. But there are different strategies and policies that are in place for gender equality.
Yeah, in our case also the same actually. I couldn't pinpoint right now. But in general, the policies and strategies regarding gender in Ethiopia, it's largely focusing on equality, gender equality. And the one that has been signed from the UN Convention is regarding the alleviation of the gender discrimination. Largely focuses on that, but the detailed one maybe I can't mention right now. Okay.
Okay. Anything from you?
I think we talked about our policies.
Okay. Yeah, just about if there are any international policies, treaties, conventions that can be used because this is a development matter. It should not just be left at domestic solution level. Governments need to take their place. I think that's an important point. And I think if there's a gap there, if there's a research opportunity there, then I think again that is something that can be examined. And so we come to the end of that panel discussing promoting gender equality, equal opportunities and empowerment of women, smallholder farmers in the horticulture sector. And I want to appreciate the panel. Let's give them a hand of applause. Thank you, Lydia Meriti, for leading that. Thank you very much.